Hi team, so we're looking at ordering decimals this morning. Okay, so our Walter's there to order decimals accurately. So before we actually get into ordering them, we actually need to know how to read a decimal. So here I've got the value houses, okay, the place value column system, okay. So we usually read our numbers from left to right, okay. So we start with our biggest number, in this case it's in the hundreds, so 342, okay. And so we can see that 4 is in the tens, the 2 is in the ones. Our decimal point, that is the part that shows us where our starting point is. Okay, generally when we start counting, it's like a reference point. Okay, always to the left is the ones column, and always to the right is the tenths column. Now the tenths, they are smaller than a whole. Okay, so it takes 10 tenths to equal 1 whole. Okay, it takes 100 hundredths to equal 1 whole. Okay, but it takes 10 hundredths to equal 1 tenth. Okay, so reading a number, so I've got some down here. So reading a number, we need to read it as 3.6 and 3.52. Notice how I didn't go 3.52, okay, because that will be actually incorrect, okay, because if I had a 0 here, okay, which I could put in a 0 here to show that this place value column here is empty. So when we're looking at it, we've got the ones, the tenths, and the hundredths here. That column is actually empty, and I could actually put a 0 in there. So don't read it as a whole. Okay, that's why we can still read these ones as a whole, but when we get into the decimal points numbers, we generally read them as individual values. Okay, because that's where some of the traps can fall into. The confusion can happen by someone going 3.52 when it's not. It's 3.52. And that is still smaller than 3.6. Okay, so big trap there. So if I put the 0 in there, there you go, you can see that that is actually bigger. Okay, and when we start reading, we always start reading from the columns. Okay, just like if I wanted to see which one was bigger out of a 3 and say a 4, okay, we'd always start reading first. Okay, the first column. Okay, so we're reading from our left to our right. Okay, so we can see that these two are both the same. Okay, so that means we have to move to our next column. Okay, our next column says that this is a 6, this is a 5, so 6 is bigger than 5, which means that this number, the top number, is going to be our bigger number. Okay, if this was a 5, so I'm going to change it back to a 5, okay, then we'd go to the next column. Okay, and as we can see here, there's a 0 there and a 2 there, which then would make this number bigger. Okay. Okay, so let's have a little practice over here with some numbers that I have already written down. Okay, so in our ones column, we can see that they've all got a 1 in them. Okay, so they're all the same amount. So that means that we have to go to our tenths column to see which is the bigger numbers. So we can see here we've got a couple of 4s. I've got 3 4s here, and then we've got some 1s. Okay, so that means that we're going to need to look at the 4s, the ones that have 4s, to see which one's the biggest one. Okay. So that means that we need to then go to the next column. So I'm just going to put a little asterisk beside these ones because these are the ones that we're going to be working with. Okay, so we've got 4 tenths there with no other numbers in there. Okay, this one here's got 4 and then a 1 in the tenths column, and this one here's got a 4 and a 1 in the tenths column. Okay, so that means this one up here is the smallest one of the 1.4s. Okay, because there's no tenths and there's no hundredths. Okay, but this one here's got a tenth and this one's got a tenth. But this one actually has a hundredth as well, which makes it that tiny little bit bigger. Okay, so this one would actually be our biggest number here, 1.411. Okay, so I'm going to say he's number 1. Okay, then that means that this guy here is number 2 because he's bigger, because he's got one more hundredth than the next one up. So I'm going to put him as number 2, and this guy here becomes number 3. Right, so now we're going to be working on the ones that had 1s in the front of them. Okay, these other 3. Okay, so we've got 1, 1, and 1, so that means that we have to go to the next place value column. Okay, we've got a 4 there, we've got a 1 there, and we've got nothing in here, so we can put a 0 in there. Okay, so that one's empty. So that means that this one here is already bigger. Okay, so that means that I can put that as a 4. Why is that bigger? Because that's got a 4 in it where that's only got a 1. Okay, even though this one's got a 4 at the end, okay, we're going on the next column. Okay, so we've worked the tenths, we've worked the hundredths. Okay, thousandths takes 10 thousandths to equal 1/100th. Okay, bit confusing there probably, but our number system, you've got to remember our number system is made up of 10. When you get 10 in the column, okay, we go back to 0 and we put a 1 in the next column. Okay, so that means we've got 4, that's in 4th place, so that means that one there is in 5th place, and our smallest number is 1.1. That's in 6th place there. Okay, so now I've ordered them. Okay, so now it's your turn to have a go.